Hey everyone, welcome to today's What's New in Publishing session here on the High Value Publishing webinar. Got my good friend Jez with me again today as always. How you doing, Jez?
Very well. How are you, Eric?
I'm awesome. How are things across the pond there?
Yeah, fine. Bit wintry now, a bit cold.
Yeah, that's happening here too. We got a good first big snow here in Colorado, and as you can tell from last week's session, I've recovered a little bit. I'm not quite as cruddy, but my voice still isn't quite here. By the way, we're not allowing any recorders or bots to be on here. So if that gets kicked off, you'll know why. I see someone joined with Fireflies, so those will be getting kicked off. Just helps out to keep us on track here with this. Not that we're anti-AI. We just want to make sure we're using it properly. Okay, so let's dive on in here. We're going to keep up on the news stories and developments that are happening over the last few weeks here. So, Jez, I'll let you kick us off here, my friend.
Well, Eric, I tell you the one that really stood out for me actually was El Espectador. That's quite a mouthful, but it's Colombia's second biggest. It's the second biggest news brand in Colombia, but it's the oldest legacy news title. And a couple of days ago, the actual editor, the publisher, the CEO of the brand, actually had to come out on video and just apologize because what they'd been doing was running lots of fake AI stories by an intern using ChatGPT to generate them. And it's caused a huge commotion and scandal in Colombia, but it's not something that's really just, unique to that country. And it just brings up, how do publishers mitigate against fake stories using AI? And I don't know about you, Eric, but there seems to be one thread for all of them, and that is you've got to make sure the sources are verified and checked, no matter who's writing the story. And that seems to be it. It's the verification of the sources.
So, Jez, I got a question for you, and this is kind of a practical thing. So, I see, I don't know, you probably see it as well. I see even in my news feeds, even my social media feeds, I see tons of crap articles, right? All AI generated. So we've got a lot of folks here who are listening they run legitimate publications, legitimate media outlets, whether or not they have a print history or they're digital only or made a transition or whatever mix, they still pride themselves in doing authentic journalism, authentic writing, whether it's a story about the 10 best Chinese restaurants in the Soho district, or if it's a news story, national or local, or a B2B article on how to do something. How do these publishers still compete in amongst this flood of garbage that's now being just flooded out there? I mean, there's even publications out there now who are just doing nothing but just pumping AI generated content in here. So you just talked about the AI and the authentication and doing that and making sure you're checking the sources. All right. What is the motivation of a publisher to actually take that high road?
I think that's such a good question. You can see it on YouTube as well, all the dummy channels coming up that are just taking content from other people's feeds and creating it as their own. I think until there's a copyright standard in place worldwide, either through a trade body like OneIFRA or INMA, or something higher up than that, I just don't see how this can be solved. I think there needs to be some sort of stamp that can be done. I don't know whether it would be on the blockchain or anything like that. But until that's done, I just have no answer for it, Eric. What about you?
I honestly think it's going to be incumbent upon the platforms themselves. So this all is about what the social media platforms, which YouTube social media platform, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, all the
Yep.
LinkedIn, all the social media platforms, even folks like Newsbreak, or who are now taking on independent journalists, right? Who are really just spammers for the most part. They're not legit. So I think until it becomes incumbent upon them to identify and weed out just pure AI content, or very, very clearly label it as AI content to differentiate,
Mm.
this is going to continue to happen.
Yeah.
And the problem is, though, there's no incentive. There's no
No,
incentive for them to do that because they make money. They don't care. They don't care if the view goes to a legitimate
yeah.
journalism media outlet or if the view goes to some hack, wherever they may happen to be, generating an AI summary based off of someone else's work.
Yep.
So I think that this is a core problem that publishers aren't going to be able to solve ourselves. We will have to ask ourselves, though, how can we continue to build that relationship? A
Mm.
lot of media organizations, especially if we're relying upon search, it's still transactional relationships with our readers.
Yeah.
We have got to begin to build relationships, continue to build relationships with the readers, not just pumping in traffic, but
Yeah.
really trying to build in a relationship with that reader to maintain that. That's the only way we're going to overcome the noise.
Yeah, I think some of the bigger publishers in Britain, for example, Future Publishing, they're going for Google Zero. That's how they're approaching it. So it's all about first party data. It's all about audience engagement, direct. But I think it's going to have to come from Congress. I think they're going to have to. It'll have to come copyright to force those platforms to do something.
I mean, copyright law definitely needs to be completely rewritten from top to bottom with this new
Yep.
digital reality. Problem is,
Yeah.
I don't see that happening. At least here in the United States, I
No.
don't see that happening anytime in the near future. There's no incentive. There's certainly no lobby money behind it. I don't see
And
that
there'll be no
happening at all.
time. In 3 years' time, it'll be a news desert. So there won't be enough time to rewrite it.
Right. Anyway, I still think though, I put myself in the shoes of all the media companies that are listening to this podcast, and I'm saying, what do I do? And I still think
Mm.
it still comes down to create authentic content, create authentic
Mm.
deep content, and
Yeah.
then do everything you can to build that relationship with your readers. Don't just build content to get the click. Don't just build
Yeah.
content to get people to your site, but what do you want to do when they get to your site? When they get to your site and they're looking at that article, this kind of I think feeds that overall strategy. You got one shot. Get them
Yeah.
to that next level. Turn them into an email reader, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
Get them into a relationship. And once you've got that going, then you can insulate yourself from all this AI generated noise going on, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
That's very well put.
Yeah. We're certainly be talking a lot more about AI, but again, I always want to come back to practically, okay, what does that mean for us as a publisher? Speaking of AI, I'm sure you probably heard about this, that Meta just inked an actual
Yeah.
AI licensing deal with,
Yeah.
who else? Was it CNN, Fox, USA Today, People Magazine, some others.
Yeah.
So this is a big deal. It's an actual, no, the terms aren't really known, but this isn't really about driving traffic to those websites. These are those companies licensing officially their content
Mm.
to train and feed Meta AI, right?
Yeah.
It's going to give legal access to real-time reporting for Meta. The problem is, though, that this is right now, at least at this point, it's not opening up. There's not a sign-up page for publishers. They're just picking certain legacy giants out there
Mm.
to just try to continue to improve their AI, shield themselves from lawsuits. So smaller publishers, don't go thinking this is the end all be all yet. But the AI landscape is going to start to become, I think, a little bit more competitive.
Yeah.
I think that this may be kind of beginning to see that AI companies need to more systematically begin to build relationships with publishers
Yeah.
from a content licensing standpoint. So anyway, that was one interesting thing that I thought came up this
Yeah,
last
I
week.
mean, next year on our next podcast in the new year, one of the things I'm working on this month is RSL. That's really simple licensing. So that's a new protocol that's coming out, or it's out, but it hasn't got any traction. So I'll have a few more details about that for January.
Awesome, awesome. All right, what's next on your list?
Right, the next one on my list is something that is an exclusive, Eric. I don't think it's come out on any platform anywhere, Digiday, Axios, anywhere. And what it is, it's a company called SuperTab. So, we're looking at what's new in publishing. So there is a company out there called SuperTab, and what they are doing in beta with Google, they are trialing a micropayments wouldn't be the right terminology. They want to get away from that. But what they're doing is they're running a program whereby a publisher, rather than just offering a subscription or a registration wall or telling a reader to go, they're offering a third way whereby if they're not going to do a subscription, rather than lose them and throw them away, you can then use that tab within Google Ad Manager. It's a wallet, and what it allows the publisher to do is to sell a time slot. It may be 15 minutes, an hour, a day, a week, access for that person to the content, and they're remunerated for it. Now, this works across multiple publishers' sites. So it's not just one. So I will have in my SuperTab $30. And over a month, over 6 months, it doesn't matter on the frequency. If I come across an article on a site, and let's face it, if I see an article on Tucson News, I'm based in Europe. If there's an article in the Tucson Gazette that I'd like to watch about the Hopi Indians on the mesas, I am not going to subscribe for a year's subscription. I probably wouldn't leave my details for a registration wall. However, would I pay 75 cents or a buck to access that content? Maybe. And if you've got a bucket, a bit like how PayPal works, whereby you can just put that bucket to different publishers' content. Now, let me tell you what's happening here. So it's being trialed in America with a number of publishers. I can tell you one of them is Portland Press Herald. And I know that the early results are looking really strong, because what they're not trying to do is do a micropayment that replaces someone's urge to actually subscribe. It only shows up once that option is clearly not going to work. And so rather than lose the reader, then the other option comes up and off it goes. And the early results are really, really strong. And we can see that really rolling out in January of next year.
I'll be really interested in learning more about that. I'll also be interested to see, it's like I could see this working for like news publications.
Yeah.
I could see it working for large scale consumer publications where the enough micropayments are going to add up to be enough dollars, kind of like programmatic backfill advertising, right?
Yep.
Programmatic backfill advertising doesn't make a lot of sense unless you got a couple million page views at least. Otherwise, the numbers just aren't there. So it'll be interesting to see the dynamics, what size of media companies needs to work. Because I've seen other iterations of, I know you said this isn't micropayments, but I've seen other iterations of like this before that seem promising, but just never get off the ground. So I hope this one does.
You're absolutely right. I mean, Blendle, that in the end was taken over by Caffeine, and that was a micropayments payments provider, and that just didn't work. So they've got a bit of work to do, but I think the promise is really good, and the beta testing is working very, very well. So let's just see, and in January perhaps we can catch up then, because so this will become more public.
Yeah. Let's do that. I think it'll be very interesting. Hey, always looking for new ways to monetize audiences, but to me, I'm like, okay, this could work, but is it only going to work for the really big publishers that have millions of page views? What about all the other niche publishers that don't have millions of page views? Is it even worthwhile looking at? Is it going to be easy to implement? Does it integrate in with other subscription systems, or is it only Google subscriptions that it integrates in with, right? So those will be the questions I would have as that rolls out.
Yep.
Next on my list is the Google November core search update. Woohoo! So if you're not aware, Google didn't officially label it a core update, but it is November was a pretty volatile month. So again, a big shift away from keywords towards a reader's intent. So Google's continuing to look more and more for a reader intent versus the keywords they're using. They rolled out something called query groups in Search Console. So if you want to check that out, you can see what that looks like. It kind of groups all your user questions by intent. But then it serves and answers oftentimes in AI overviews. So the big challenge here, this wasn't like a big announcement, but or a big update. So I kind of call it a bit of a phantom announcement. But the losers in this, the companies that are losing traffic, are the ones with thin content or very kind of generic how-to guides, right? In other words, if AI can easily summarize your content or your article in a couple of sentences, Google's going to do that. Google's just going to do that, and they're just
Yeah.
going to keep the traffic for themselves. Right there in the AI summary, you're not going to
Yeah.
get it. And those are the sites that are losing. Now, fortunately, a lot of the sites I work with, they've got deep, unique content, right? Because I work mostly with niche
Yeah.
publishers, niche B2B publishers, niche city regional publishers, niche consumer enthusiast publishers, niche B2B trade publishers. You've got the EEAT, right? The experience, the expertise, the authority, and the trust that Google's looking for. You got
Yeah.
unique data, personal stories, expert analysis, things that AI just can't make up. Interestingly, those companies, most of those folks, I'm actually seeing a bit of an increase in Google search traffic. So this goes back to the fundamentals of search engine optimization that starts with your content and your ability to demonstrate your expertise, your experience, your authority, your trust, the
Right.
EEAT and depth of content. If you continue to do that, I think, Jez, this might be a way to also kind of break out of the AI
Yeah.
din. And that's to keep building out that good content. Those sites are actually seeing an increase. So I'd be really interested. Anybody who's attending here right now, drop in the chat, drop in the Q&A. Let me know if you are seeing an increase or a decrease in traffic over the last month or so. And it was especially volatile over the Thanksgiving holiday here in the United States. So anyway, something interesting
Yeah, that's very
to keep an eye
encouraging.
on.
If, rather than go down to zero, that actually it's staying stable or actually increasing for some publishers. I think at this point, it's going to be the niche or niche, as we say over here, publishers that are going to really succeed because their content is unique.
hmm hmm Yeah, that's why I'm a huge fan of niche publishing. Not saying that you can't do it at large scale too,
Sure.
but the thin content that has no
Yeah.
depth to it, that's going to be the clear losers in all of this.
Yeah.
So that was mine. Anything else?
Great. Yeah. Now, this is a bigger publisher. It's the FT, Financial Times, but it's got a 92% conversion boost with AI dynamic paywalls. So they're using
Mm.
a tech partner called Zuora, but it could be any tech partner who's got this technology. And they've seen conversion rates up 92%. They've seen funnel progression up 118%. And they've seen subs lifetime value up 78%. They've seen some stunning results. Now, it's not just them. Forbes came out a couple of weeks ago and also admitted that they were seeing incredible results with dynamic paywalls that are tailored to each reader's user profile so that the actual offer is far more compelling. And the actual results so far have been very, very strong, both for Forbes and the FT. Now, what the FT has said, it's come from relentless testing. They're testing all the time, personalized triggers, and smart segmentation. And it's all based on user behavior, frequency, and
Mm.
engagement. So, it's quite a complicated war, but it's the tech partner that's really, doing the heavy lifting on this. So what I'm really looking for next year is these dynamic paywalls really taking off. And by the end of next year, I can't see there being any static paywalls. They're all going to be dynamic.
I tend to agree, especially in the larger cases.
Yes.
Again, I go back down to the niche cases where, even something like a piano or,
Yep.
is too expensive for a lot of niche publishers,
Yeah.
right? So that they're using a lot of some third-party fulfillment companies. They're using WooCommerce with subscriptions, for
Yeah.
example. So it'll be interesting. I definitely do see that kind of technology beginning to move down the ecosystem,
Definitely.
though.
And I think there will be new vendors coming through. If it's not answered now, they'll be through by May or June next year. I think the speed of disruption now and the ability of AI to be so quick and agile will mean that there will be a vendor that drops into the space that can access those niche publishers.
Mm, I think that's going to be interesting. And so I've always been a fan of the KISS principle, right? The keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah,
In that sometimes we try to put too much into trying to tailor things for everybody and every possible needs that at the end we wind up just making things so confusing. And I look here and I see one subscription price,
yeah,
look there, I see a different subscription price. What the hell is your subscription price?
Yeah.
kind of thing. And maybe that'll change, but I mean, it's interesting because I see folks like Netflix,
Yeah.
right, or Apple Music, or Spotify. They don't have this ultra high end AI powered subscription pricing that's tailored to each individual person.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
color me a little skeptical because if I'm not seeing these
Mm.
big companies like Apple and Microsoft and Spotify and Netflix, if I'm not seeing them use it,
Yeah.
I kind of wonder why is it going to really take off in the media industry? So again, I'm interested in. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch, but I always color myself a little skeptical, and I wonder how much it's going to cost because I'm
Yeah.
sure Zora and doesn't isn't exactly inexpensive.
Yeah. No, those are very, very good points as well.
We'll
And as
see.
you say, the New York Times, Washington Post, they don't use them because they don't need to. So, yeah, good point.
Well, they do have a lot of some dynamic pricing that they do. I know. Anyway, the last one on my list, it was a really interesting site that I came across. Um, this is from the Columbia Journalism School, the TOE Center for Digital
Yeah.
Journalism. This is an AI deals and disputes tracker. If you're really interested, we'll put the link to this into the show notes. But if you check this out, you can see, hey, here's as of December 5th, Perplexity and New York Times Company is in the middle of a lawsuit. Meta did a deal with CNN, Fox News, Fox Sports, People. Microsoft did a deal with Condé Nast, right?
Hmm.
OpenAI did a lawsuit here. So I thought this was really interesting,
Yeah.
just as a quick way to kind of keep track of what's going on in the land of AI deals and disputes out there. I haven't necessarily grabbed a lot of things here, although it's very interesting to look at Microsoft in conjunction
Yeah.
with OpenAI. They're starting to get into some smaller folks like California. Well, that's a lawsuit, but like OpenAI is beginning to work with some, you know, not just the huge names out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So it may be an interesting way to look at how to go through and pursue some things. So it's a good idea to keep track of some trends that are going on there and what's going on in the AI deals and disputes between those companies and media companies.
Yeah, that's a fantastic resource. I haven't seen that. So thanks for bringing it to my attention.
Yeah. Anything else on your list?
Yeah, wrapping up here, I think one of the big points that I've got here is that Gen Z journalists are losing faith in the industry.
Mm.
So the new crop of journalists coming through, and we want the best. We want the best talent around. We want them. And they're losing faith in the industry. They're not losing faith in journalism, but they're losing faith in the industry. And why is that? The low starting wages, 80% cite that as a problem. Paid opportunities are scarce. A lot of publishers will say work as an intern for 6 months. 81% report brutal job competition. And it's not just about the money. Respondents also flagged poor mentorship, burnout culture, and the dominance, as I've just mentioned, of unpaid internships. They still believe in journalism's mission. They just don't think the industry has a place for them. I think there's a huge amount of talent out there, and I think really savvy publishers can access these talent and just nurture them. And then I think you've got really loyal employees for not just 1 or 2 years, but for 5 or 10 years. It's just about treating them right and mentoring them properly.
So I saw that same story and it caught my attention. I'm downloading a couple of things that I want to show you here because what I found really interesting, I'll pop them onto a little separate slide here. What I found really interesting was okay, yeah, we're there's also been a bunch of layoffs recently
Yeah.
in the industry, and I think a lot of the Gen Z and Gen X is beginning to not Gen X, but Gen Z and millennial especially. But hey, mate, I'm Gen X. We're still doing some stuff here. They're starting to especially see some changes in the way people consume content and consume news.
Yeah.
I was going to try to find this really quickly here. If I could just find it, I would be very happy, man.
This is another thing, Eric. Actually, on that point, is that it's really important to have these young journalists come up because they're consuming media different. Now, the youngest managing editor ever in one of the Swiss national dailies, I think she was 35. The reason that she rose so high so quickly is that she knew how the youngsters were consuming content, rolled that out in the national newspaper, and of course, the results absolutely blew the competition out the water. So it's not just about having talent and actually replacing the people who are leaving. It's also because they consume media differently.
Absolutely right. I 100% agree with you. All right, I'm going to share my screen. It may be ugly, but I'm going to share my screen here with you. Um, so um, I brought this up because I've actually been following this guy on Facebook recently. It's because, I think that if we as media companies don't number one, think about how we're going to engage with people who use the social media platforms primarily as the way to get their information, and we don't bring these newer generation journalists, employees on board and give them the tools to do this, they're going to go out on their own. So this gentleman, Cody the weather guy, Cody the WX guy, right? He's got 387,000 followers for Denver and Front Range weather on Facebook. Now, I'm gonna give you a kick this. Here's like one of his posts that he'll do, right? He puts this up here and writes it, but look how he writes. Look how he writes. He talks about he's talking through things. He's giving you information. He's like, it's a lot. Like I said, set up between this is somewhere on the complicated spectrum between Dennis Rodman and Courtney Love. Stay tuned, stay weird, drink water. Y'all are dehydrated. Had a weird cough, mild sore throat last night, according to my MD. I'm adopted and 40 months pregnant. Okay, my dad was adopted, but still, that's rude. And mom will be happy she's getting a new grandbaby. So, he's throwing in humor. He's throwing in personality. He types snow as SNUR, snur, right? He's funky, but he's giving good information. All right, so remember that number I showed you, that 387,000 followers, right? Here's the biggest Denver news station, 9 News, NBC affiliate. They have a quarter of the followers, right? This one guy, this one independent journalist has generated 4 times as many followers as 9 News. And I can guarantee you he's now monetizing it through Meta's monetization.
Yeah.
So we've got to make sure, how are we enabling our writers, because he's not doing video, he's not doing short form video. He's just doing posts. He doesn't do short form video. So how do we enable our teams and how do we begin to build this out? Now, the problem we've got here is that we're now building a channel on a rented platform, right? And we all know media, we've always been told we need to own our own platform. Don't build your house on rented ground. And there's truth to that. But on the other hand, this guy's making 387,000 followers. Is he making a good living? Maybe he's making a good living. If he's making a good living, does he need to go to work for a media company? Maybe not. And he's probably getting more views than the local media companies.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. That's a great one to round it off. That shows where the future's trending.
Shows where the future's trending. I don't think it means that traditional publishers, traditional media companies are dead. I don't think it means that we can't adapt, we can't work with this, but we're now entering the stage of the celebrity influencer or the celebrity YouTuber is moving beyond just games and fashion and into weather reporting, news reporting, crafts, hobbies. I'm B2B.
And it's about the unique voice. That's the thing about it. If you look at that, no matter how he wrote, it's the unique voice, but the way he's engaging with people as well. He's your friend. He's not some remote corporate office somewhere in downtown Denver. That's
absolutely right. Had he written that as the way we would write most of our articles.
Yeah.
People would blow him. You can't fake that. That guy's got real personality.
Yeah,
So those are the new rock stars that we need to look out for and we need to take
yeah,
care of and
yeah,
nurture and
yeah,
feel and share in our success as a media company, or they're just going to go off and do their own thing and
yeah,
compete with us.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
I thought I'd
yeah,
throw that
yeah,
out
yeah.
there. It's a rapidly changing environment, my friend.
Yeah, no, it's really dynamic. I think we're going to see more change in the next 12 months than we've probably seen in the 5 to 10 years before us.
I think you're absolutely right. Well, that's all we had for today, guys. We're going to do this every the first Monday of every month. So, well, early January, we'll see you back here, Jez. If we don't see you before then, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and hope you get a little bit of a break too.
Yeah, as well. You too, Eric. Have a happy new year as well.
Cheers, my friend.
Cheers. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.